you're paired together, is it really going to build the same chemistry as guys who are working 2, 3, 4, even sometimes like 5 in really busy weeks, days a week? No, it's not. So, yeah, I could do a whole podcast on it, which is what I do, because there's a lot to talk about. But anyways, sorry 47ness. I will try to show a cat during the in-between. He's currently has his back to me. He doesn't want to acknowledge I exist until I give him a treat. In the bottom right of this best of 5 semifinals, we got the blue Zerg go Elazer. In the top left, as the bright Protoss, we got liquid MaNa. Speaking of my podcast, tomorrow is the early access premiere for the next episode, and then Wednesday is the actual public premiere. So Lightshade once again in a PvZ. Gotta predict that MaNa goes for a Twilight Council opener. But it's always, you know, what is the Twilight Council opener? Which one is it? 3, 4, 5, 6 gateways? Disruptors or 2 base immortal all in? What follow up with Dark Shrine, right? It kind of counts for all of them. All the main branches, I suppose, and then there's little like sticks and twigs off of each individual one, but Lightshade just doesn't seem like a map you would choose as a Protoss player when you're like, I want to play Stargate into a fast third. It just don't seem like it would be great for it. It's short, so the early to mid-game aggression from the Zerg is kind of terrifying. If you're not the one doing aggression, maybe they will be. And if you go into the mid to late game, you're talking about some pretty wide open areas. So even if you take this third, it's still 2 different directions they can move in, still like not that much of a choke. And if you take this third, well, forget about it. You don't want to take that third, do you? But MaNa wants to prove me wrong, goes for a Stargate. I mean, there's always ways to work around a map's, I suppose, weaknesses. Your backseat thing is good caster chemistry building? Not exactly. I mean, the reason that StarCraft 2 casters work so well together in general, I don't think there's too many instances of like bad chemistry, is that we are all friends and we like hanging out with each other. But to get the same type of chemistry that people talk about with Tastosis is very different. And not, you know, not even talking about some of their natural tendencies, just how well their individual personalities suit each other on a broadcast. We're talking about the actual, like, mechanics of it and what they've worked up. It's very different. You're literally saying that's the shooting the shit with a friend is going to directly translate into commentating with a friend. It doesn't. Things you gotta practice. Roachborn comes down for MaNa, who is now going to see that it is an Oracle. This is a huge surprise to Elazer. I think I might have said MaNa, but I'm in Elazer. Anyways, Elazer had no Spore Crawlers prepared. Keep picking the wrong guy. There we go. As Elazer never got any scouting done, and I think the assumption is generally that your opponent's going to be going into a Twilight Council. That said, even without a drone, Spore Crawler being available, the Oracle has to come home anyways. Deal with the Lings, make sure the third base isn't canceled. Elazer still not adding on any Spore Crawlers. Seems a bit greedy at this point, but it's not because he's trying to maximize his economy. It's because Elazer wants to maximize his army supply. Queens are marching through the middle of the map. Elazer going for some early game aggression. No Nidus Worm, no Lair. The reinforcements might be that quick for the roaches, but they'll be as quick as usual for those lings. The Oracle Sea Queen's in the middle, and that's going to be a big old red flag there. MaNa has 2 Stargates on the way, but I don't know, man. They're not really going to be effective right now. Much more importantly, he's got a Void Ray being Chrono boosted. Shield batteries coming down. I think that's going to have to be multiple shield batteries as well as multiple pylons. That is 1 pylon powering everything on the front lines. That's a bit scary. 1 stalker gonna fall. Hello? Oh, I warp in more. Warp in a lot more. So that's gonna be 5 queens with transfuses against 2 oracles, a void ray, and a shield battery that will run out of energy. Overcharge is available, however, so that's going to keep it kicking for a little while longer. But Crosabile is trying to come down to break it. It's not enough Crosabile. It's only 1 Ravager. The queens have used up all of their transfuses, and the air army apparently just does not die. They're air immortals right now. Not Air Jordans, Air Immortals, and they're fantastic. The Oracle barely didn't die in the last breath of the Queen, and if the Air Army doesn't die, then how does Elazer really get enough damage done? We'll see. He does actually crack open the entrance, so Lings are in the main base and at the natural, but how much damage can they do? Actually, apparently quite a bit. Probes are like, we can take care of this, and they're like, nope, just kidding, no we can't. Gonna pull into that natural base. Do remember that while this is going on, Elazer has not tackled the 3rd base at all, so it really needed to do a hell of a lot of damage, and it wasn't going to get it done. GG, MaNa holds on Lightshade. Death Aura will be game 2. That was quick. Gotta go fast. In the bottom right of Death Aura, we got the blue Zerg Elazer. In the top left, red Protoss, MaNa. Doing an excellent job of holding that aggression. Really nice to scout it. Those queens being scouted in the middle of the map provided just enough time for the shield batteries to finish to provide the overcharge that saved the oracles and the void ray. Really, could have been a lot closer. Could have been just game ending if the queens were there before MaNa did any scouting whatsoever. They're naturally good, less good pairings. Some casters are more analytical. Pairing 2 analysts isn't the best. Sometimes. I think there's actually a lot more fluidity. Especially in Starcraft 2. Because we're so often paired up with other people that, you know, are boxed into these that we have to actually adapt and overcome. Whereas, you know, for a lot of other esports, it is very much like you are this, you are that, push that. Yeah, Twitch ad blocks being a real dick. Twitch is kind of being a real dick. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing that I can be on Twitch and being paid by Twitch and then not really get in trouble for saying Twitch is being a dick. Beautiful.
Twitch Prime sub received. Thank you for appeasing the Overmind.
Thank you very much, Kelvin365, for the Prime sub. What's that in Fahrenheit? Elazer once again forced to take that other hatchery. This probe is staying around a lot longer than you usually expect. Trying to hide it for a freebie scout later on. Elazer, though, checks for it. Finds it, surrounds it, kills it. He almost pulled back, but then at the last second saw the probe and denies that easy scout. The probe wasn't going to do very much more. It's not going to like build a pylon back there, but if it can see a third hatch in fact does go down and then get into the main to see that in fact the gas is not being mined, then that's pretty big. Depth, not even gonna try. Anyway, 3 lings, tuck yourself in here, maybe you get a drone, maybe 2, but actually not even. It's so easy to micro against, since there's not much else happening on a map. I think more importantly, scouting, like, are you still building drones? And Elazer is. Not gonna do such an early all-in. MaNa went for a Stargate opener, but then very quickly into a Twilight Council. Could be actually going for an Archon drop follow-up, or even just a Resident Glaives follow-up. One of the lesser builds used, but absolutely still a build. It's one of those things where, like, 70% of the time when it comes to a Stargate opener, you can be like, they're not going to attack me for a while. I don't have to worry about dying or taking damage, other than just the harassment from the Oracles. Most of the time. But then the Archon drop follow-up that was popular months ago could hit you a little bit faster if you weren't prepared. Could hit you kind of hard if you weren't prepared. The Resident Glaives follow-up absolutely can hit you hard, and that's what MaNa's going to be doing here. And then there are some all-ins after an Oracle opener.
Right, Captain.
But the all-in might be scoutable with the lack of the third base if you're really keeping an eye out as a Zerg player. Something like this is a little bit more difficult to keep an eye out on because you're not usually getting into the main base to see if they have a Twilight Council and a Forge and a Robo. You can't get in there and check for every ingredient to a macro game. If Elazer had Overlord speed and saw just a Twilight Council and kind of a weird hidden spot being chronoed, yeah, then he would know. He would also know if he saw a lot of adepts being made. Now, he wouldn't quite know if it was just like a decent amount of adepts, like 6, 8 adepts going across the map, or if it would be Resident Glaives. But I think once it is 6 or 8, you kind of just have to like start figuring that it's Resident Glaives. Thank you, Jackson OSU, for the 2-month resub. And that is a few more than just the 8 adepts. That's 10, 11. And then across the map, Overlord's gonna see it. Ooh, oh, good. Oh, you know, it kind of didn't. Well, it sees adepts move out. Yeah, I think he knows. Overseer is being made to get a check on what is coming up after this. It's actually double Robo, which the Overseer will see very easily. But Oracle heads into the main base, gonna get denied by a couple of Queens. And then the Adepts head over to the third base, where there are now Lings and Roaches about to pop. A lot of Adepts, so even with the army Elazer has, it's still kind of like scary. Do I have me? It's in the right position. Lings are waiting in the natural. A stasis trap tries to be put down, but not quite going to finish. Good target fire from the Queens. Elazer doing an excellent job handling this, and this is so far been a straight up disaster. Thankfully getting 6 drones. Maybe a 7th if he was paying attention to this Adept, but thankfully getting 6 is not exactly ideal. And I guess some Adepts managing to survive. It's still not ideal. I'd say more so with that many Adepts, you're hoping for like 10, 12 drones, plus however many Lings he did kill, 16. And then you're also kind of hoping that they're not going to immediately counterattack. Because even though MaNa has double pumped Immortals, it's still kind of that scary situation where the fodder there isn't really plentiful. If Elazer was setting up for a bunch of Lings and Ravagers being formed, he could be in a little bit of trouble. But it's not. Elazer actually just takes the opportunity to further increase his lead. He's got a 4th base on the way, going up to actually above 80 drones. It's going to be a little bit funny for a little while, I think. The 4th hatch is probably going to come down maybe shortly after the Adepts arrived. So now it looks, you know, he's like long distance mining off of a lot of drones, but still. He's going to have that superior economy. And MaNa's not going to be too far off. I mean, he's going to have the economy you would want from a Protoss on 3 bases. He's not really going to have the aggression you would want. The ability to scare Elazer from doing whatever the hell he wants. So right now, that's getting up to almost 80 workers. But soon enough, that's going into a Spire and whatever the hell he wants from the Spire. You know, if you didn't do the Adept attack, maybe you got like a +1 attack on the way with a couple of Archons and charge lots. You're kind of scaring him away from building 10 mutas, but now you have Immortals that ain't gonna crab walk across the map all by their lonesome, and they don't shoot up either. Very scary situation. Waka, 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 waka. One of my least favorite things about the DreamHack production is that as soon as there's a pause, right to our faces. If there's an extended pause, makes sense. But like one time it was like an introduction and they were like 1 second. Literally they go to our faces. The pause ends 2 seconds later and they stay on our faces. And it's like, well, the game's on. So, hello?
Game resumed.
All right, there we go. 11 mutas. That's a decent amount to start off with when your opponent has nothing shooting up. MaNa is trying to get to a couple of Phoenix, but right now, first of all, contaminated. And then second of all, you don't quite know how much they're going to be using that Spire. I feel like the best buff... Actually, he's never scouted the Spires. This is kind of like a paranoid Phoenix, which he's correct. He should be getting this, but... Even if he knew about the Spire, I feel like the biggest buff a Protoss player could get in this matchup for this specifically would be like observers or hallucinations showing like the amount of mutas possible to make off of that Spire, you know what I mean? Like, if there was a little counter on top of the Spire that said Elazer could build 12, MaNa would be really, really thankful. But that's not really a feasible buff, is it? So now it's like, well, he could make 10. He could make 5. He could make 20. Even if he had a bank for 20, he could only make 10 and then put everything else into Roach Ravager. It's a hard game. A couple more Phoenix are going to be produced to help out against the mutas as their number is growing. MaNa's going to be thankful for that. They're getting into Blink +1, also crucial here. There is a ground army. And it's kind of a scary one. So many Lings means that these Immortals really won't look that great. And there is a direct attack right into the natural. Barely getting that wall in, and I do mean barely. That Zealot almost died. And without the shield battery, Lings would have flooded into the main. Soccer numbers looking okay. Not great. 11 to 20, but the 20 meters aren't quite here yet on this side of the map. Actually, I'm a little bit worried. I'm waiting for more warp-ins here. Shield battery overcharge, hell of a drug. Cannons also being put up. MaNa doing a lot with very, very little. Soccer warp-ins, little mistimed, little mispositioned, actually just losing a bunch of them. Trying to trade out to the best of his ability. The Phoenix number has actually grown to a decent amount. 6 Phoenix. Supporting 10 Stalkers is actually pretty damn good. If it was just 6 Phoenix or just 10 Stalkers, then it's a lot different, but... Elazer has to respect that combination, and then also has to respect just the Phoenixes in general. Their numbers are growing. They're even getting to the Fleet Beacon upgrade. And Phoenixes are just supposed to be fantastic against the mutas, as long as they're not dying to them. You know? That's the trick. That's the trick, isn't it? Oh, those are Banelings popping all the shields and the Immortals. The force field's coming down too late. I believe he didn't have enough force fields, because the sentries died. They were so last minute. All of the Immortals, or close to all the Immortals, go down. It's going to be a hold, but not a very good one. No, but aggressive blink forward to try and take out the mutant numbers. I like that, but it looks like the Phoenixes were trying to take them on alone for a little while. And it didn't go too well from, what, was 7 or 8 down to just the 3. Ah, yeah, losing 3 Immortals really sucks. I mean, his army was just, it was growing so slowly. Right? I mean, this game has pretty much already been over, I gotta say, since the Adept attack. Elazer's choice to go into mutas just made sure that he kept the momentum up. He never gave MaNa room to breathe, even though MaNa was doing everything really correctly. I mean, a couple of mistakes here and there with the warping locations, but he's doing everything about as correct as you could in the situation. He was just in a really bad situation. And that's going to be the final fight. MaNa below 100 supply. No fourth base in sights. Elazer is just going to flood Lings and Mutas, and that is going to be GG. Elazer brings it to, well, it's already always going to be a game 3. It's a best of 5, but he evens up the score. Cat cam. He's taking a bath. What you looking at? Game 3 will be on Pillars of Gold. Now we're tied up 1-1. You know, I think I refreshed the bracket 20 minutes ago and forgot to actually look at it. Hammerine did 2-1 Harsum, is waiting in the semifinals for Kos versus Vanya, which I suspect will end soon or has even already ended. It just isn't updated. In the bottom left, we got Elazer. Top right, MaNa. A Protoss player who loves his fast probes. It's a pretty big delay. Delay that next probe. Pylon comes down at an awkward time. But he loves it. He likes making sure that his opponent doesn't get the hatchery, and there's not much the Zerg player can do against this. If it's just a pylon, like a regular pylon, so that's the probe being rallied out to the front, 14 pylon, the 16 hatch can beat it on like every map, I guess, except maybe Submarine and Lightshade. Maybe that's the question mark. But anything else? That regular 14 pylon into probe block doesn't get it. So going immediately with the probe does kind of hurt your economy. And there are some Protoss players, there are some builds Protoss players do that even just don't scout at all because they want to save that money, right? Imagine what the difference is between that and what MaNa does. But he does guarantee the block. And this is apparently for a lot more nefarious things than usual. Now, the Overlord has smartly placed over that third hatch, which some Zerg players would not bother to do, just kind of figuring like, oh, it's MaNa. You know, he's not really typically a cannon rusher. Also, he just loves making sure that our hatchery goes in the other place. But it is actually a cannon rush. Now, there's only so many things you can do about the cannon rush. When map makers design maps nowadays, I think they're considering the implications of the terrain and the setup of a cannon rush at the natural. They're not really doing it for the terrain around the third. So as you can see, there's a lot of tight places around there. But all MaNa wanted to do was get a cancel. That's all you really could hope for since it was scouted by the Overlord. If it wasn't scouted by the Overlord, then Elazer would never have moved drone over there, would not cancel the hatchery. It would finish and then be attacked by the cannon. And this is one of the better scenarios, I suppose, for Elazer, but still not great. He's also a bit supply blocked, not accounting for losing the hatchery timing, didn't build an Overlord. This Overlord is trying to get some scouting done. It's going to see that it is a front wall off, so it's possible that MaNa's trying to macro out of it. This Overlord's going to see that it is a proxy robo, so you're like, well, you could have, but you're not. I'm just another cannon, I guess, to make sure that it's protected. It's just kind of awkward. You know, what's so powerful about the cannon rush and the natural is not just occasionally like the fact that it can be put up, depending on the terrain. How well can a cannon rush evolve from here? That's why Death Ore is really popular for it, but not necessarily this map. But then also that it cuts you away from the rest of the map. Like, you're not really supposed to get a drone out to take a nether base. And if you do, then it's actually a point in the Zerg's favor. You're supposed to be stuck on one base. They're supposed to be not just easily scouting your intentions with your lair by just moving up, or in this case, the depth gets through, but still. They're also constantly pressuring your last base. This is going to be so different. Elazer gets 2 other bases up, and MaNa isn't threatening anything. He'll threaten eventually the natural base, which really isn't so important, and then really won't have the means to punish both the natural and the third, much less anything in the main. This doesn't seem like it works, to be honest. The more I talk it through, the more it seems bad for MaNa, but I believe in him. There's a reason he's gonna do this. If he wanted to cannon rush in a regular fashion, he just wouldn't have done the pylon block, I feel. Unless it's something where it's like so just twisty-turny mental gymnastics. It's like, well, if I don't do the pylon, or I don't do the probe block, then they'll be suspicious, and then... No, I can't even go down that path. Nah, I don't know, guys. This is weird. I think, I actually just think that MaNa was hoping the Overlord wouldn't see it. That's what I'm boiling it down to, but I could be very incorrect. Keep that in mind. I don't know what MaNa's true intentions were here, but it just seems like this is something where the hatchery is supposed to die. So that's already a lot invested from the Zerg player. And then this happens. You know, and this is still kind of awkward for all the reasons I was stating. But I guess it's a little less awkward because the Zerg player had actually taken like a lot of damage up until this point. I don't know. Lings are a pretty strong counter. If you can actually produce them. Off of 1 base, it gets awkward, but off of 3 hatcheries, then hell yeah. Lings grabbing the immortals, the cannons, the shield batteries, queens supporting them. It's taking a little while, but they're getting there. 20 more Lings are on the way, so Elazer, I do think, is going to be able to pick up the victory here. Ooh, a pylon powering a shield battery and the Stargates? Yeah, oh no. Not that the Void Ray would have saved him. Oh no, he mispositions the Warp Prism! Ah, it's so awkward, and now the Queens are so close to the Warp Prism, it's not really worth powering up that Stargate. 3 Immortals are still alive, and hell, that 4th one is still on the way. Thank you, Pylon, way in the back. Warp Prism Micro has also been pretty on point as much as you can against Lings. Another shield battery is going to bite the dust. I guess the Stargate will survive, and there's the power from the Warp Prism finally working out. Queen's unable to escape. 1 will barely. Creep Turn's already been put down, so that will continue to flow. Those queens actually weren't injecting, so maybe the amount of Lings starts to get a little bit questionable. Maybe Elazer did overcommit, but I don't know, guys. I feel like it's still okay. He just has to wait for a couple more queens, make sure that the Void Ray doesn't snowball, and then make sure he gets surrounds on these Immortals, takes care of the shield batteries over here. Immortals just aren't very good at killing Lings. And 1 does go down, another one's very weak. All of them have their shields already popped. Another Void Ray is trying to be produced, as well as another Immortal. But I gotta say that Queen Ling is a pretty cheap and very, very effective way of dealing with this. You need Fear Dragon to explain this to us? I don't think Fear Dragon would know very much more about this type of cannon rush. It is so uncommon, and I think for a very good reason, to have the cannon rush start at the 3rd hatch. 1 Void Ray goes down, shield battery is out of juice. 3 Immortals still alive and being recharged from the shield battery way in the back. And a 4th Immortal is about to join in once more. I really love this creep tumor. Oh, it was sniped. Oh, I didn't even notice. Shoot. Those queens really could use a little bit more mobility, but don't necessarily want to put another creep tumor down because they want transfuses. This one seems like it's going to eventually get it put forward. And, of course, during all of this, the Overlord's seeing, or could see, that there's no Nexus. Not that, seeing double production, you know, Void Ray and Immortal being produced, you're gonna go ahead and assume there's not a Nexus also being fit into that build order. Lings, once again, encompassing almost everything here. They're having trouble taking care of this 1 shield battery and the 1 cannon. And that does seem to be how MaNa is holding on. He is retreating to the safety, I guess, of these two structures, but it's temporary. I mean, as stupid as it is, Queen Ling is going to get better than Immortal Void Ray in this way. You know, if we're talking different economies and different production means, then it could be very different, but if there's a graph, there's kind of like a curve for the Zerg and it shoots straight up. And for the Protoss, it's kind of like a very steady incline, right? But as soon as the Zerg gets that little bit of a dip and then shoots straight up, there's not much the Protoss can do. GG. Elazer with the 2-1 is still gonna have to play out another game, another victory if he actually wants to go to the finals. MaNa tries something certainly unorthodox. Doesn't work. I'm thinking either, like I said, the hatchery dies instead of being canceled is a pretty big difference. That really messes with their build order and it's just a straight up 350 mineral lost. Excuse me. And then I think also if the Zerg player responds with roaches, because they're like, oh, that's what I do if I'm on one base, then it also might work out. Because the roaches are, you know, obviously a lot more counterable by those immortals. And have trouble getting into all those structures, but neither one of those things happened. So it just looked a little bit weird. Ling's OP. Yeah, alright. He may not know what's going on, but he'll still give an explanation. What am I, chopped liver? This is like when you're correctly guessing, or let's just say like this is like when you're a Terran player caster and you're explaining the possibilities of a Protoss decision, and people are like, "Well, you're Terran, you would never know," and then you get like Roddy or someone casting right alongside you, and they also go, "Yeah, I don't know either. I think you have the best guess." And you just, like, want to get up all in Twitch chat's face and be like, yeah, suck it, fuck you. Ooh, you don't cannon rush. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding about that, but I know Diggle Douglas cool. I am absolutely serious about the example I gave, though, because that does happen. Happens to everyone. Anyhow. In the top left is the blue Protoss on Romanticide. We got MaNa. In the bottom right, it is Elazer. Elazer loves to go for a forward hatch, and he is once again going to do it. He loves it. And MaNa should know Elazer loves it. Not very surprising to see him do that. The first time Elazer did it, probably a surprise. And then Elazer has done it, I guess, since then. I don't know when Elazer figured out it was a good idea on Romanticide. Maybe immediately. Maybe after a couple of ladder games. But it seems like he's done it ever since then. And I honestly think it is scarier for the Protoss to encourage this to happen. Now, since Elazer loves it so much, I wouldn't be surprised if he does it regardless of MaNa's pro block. If you love it so much, why don't you wear it? But I do think that encouraging Elazer to take that as a forward natural is like, do you really want to do that? Elazer is still ultimately, I think, the more aggressive of the two. Or, gosh, I guess I can say that I think he's the more successfully aggressive of the two. And I can say it with some confidence considering how the last game went. So, I don't know. I would be more scared of this. But I guess there's also something about, you know, the enemy that you do know versus the enemy you don't know type deal. I don't know. We can talk a lot about this hatchery position. But at the end of the day, I think we're just mostly talking about Elazer's aptitude for aggression and mid-game attacks. And a forward hatchery actually helps him with that. Now, MaNa is going to go for a Stargate opener. Elazer has not been getting Spore Crawlers. Whenever he thinks he doesn't have to, he's not been getting them. So he's trying to add in a little bit of that greed that a lot of other Zerg players wouldn't try, at least to that extent. You know, oh, is it a Stargate, is it a Twilight Council? I'm not sure. I'm still going to get one Spore Crawler. Not Elazer. Elazer's even been up against Stargates in that first game, for instance, and just like saw it was an Oracle and was like, you know what, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to all in. I could see him doing that again. Adept's not going to shade out from here. She's probably safer where she is. She's all alone. The Oracle's going to come and try to save Private Betty. Except the Oracle's coming in on the other side. Oh, I guess Private Betty is not going to be saved. She has to save herself. Hashtag feminism. Way to go, Betty. And now the Oracle. Oh, also, I guess, a feminine voice at the very least. We'll call her, Sharon. It's going to come in. Go to the main. There is no Spore Crawler. What have I said? What have I been saying? Spore Crawler's placed somewhere, but not... What? Okay, that was the last place I expected a Spore Crawler to be put down. I was like, some Zerg players put a Spore Crawler down, you know, at least one. Well, usually that one Spore Crawler they put down for just in cases, like for both an Oracle or a Dark Shrine, is usually either in their main, because Oracles, or at their third, because Oracles and DTs. But like the fact that it puts it as natural, where there are no drones, by the way, is also another reason why putting it there is kind of odd. Well, Elazer, I guess, he deserved to be punished. Lost 5 drones, but then I guess he saved 2 of them by not just building all 3 at once. I don't know, whatever. We got a second Stargate finishing up. Twilight Council and Forge also on the way. But where is that second Stargate? I saw it. I didn't imagine it. Oh, it's right there. Wait, what? No. Oh, there it is. Don't think Elazer knows about this double Phoenix play. That's going to be a surprise. And a potentially deadly one. Elazer is just going up to 4 bases, trying to push out his creep spread, not really focusing on any scouting. Not that he can. Not until that layer is done, he can grab an Overseer. And he might do so immediately, but that would only give him so much of a heads up to the double pumped Phoenix. So this is what we saw MaNa do against Bly. MaNa had already gotten a pretty fair lead because of Oracle harassment against Bly, and in this game it's kind of the same thing, but you know, not nearly to the same extent. 6 drones, I guess, now going down to the Oracles, not 20. Whoa, Oracle barely didn't die. But if the Phoenixes do a good job distracting, and there is the first scout on those Phoenixes, and the charge lots come in and just swoop the dupe on top of a 4th hatch, it can be devastating. Even for a good player like Elazer. Now, Elazer's going to send all of his things across the map. Those are something that's the Phoenix in a struggle to help out with. So ideally, you just don't have to bring back the Phoenix. You don't want to, and you don't have to, would be the ideal. Kind of an odd second wall off coming in here. The Oracles are there to help out against the Ling Flood, and they will do a much better job than these Phoenix, who are trying to grab a couple of Queens. The reinforcing Queens coming with a transfuse, forcing this to take a very long time. Now 2 Queens being picked up. One of the transfuses is going to go down. Hydra's barely popping into the time, help take down a second Phoenix. And that was a rather solid initial defense from our Zerg player. And now it's a bit scary for MaNa, who sees that someone already has a decent number of Queens and a very good Hydra count. He saw the Hydralisk Den, so he must have known it was a possibility. His Phoenixes wouldn't have a long time. There for a good time, not a long time. But when the Phoenixes really do get kind of stopped like that, and then this, oh, and then this, yeah. You are awfully scared of them just moving across the map. Your Phoenixes haven't cleared up any creep spread. Your Phoenixes aren't really scary enough to keep them all the way back at home. Elazer, if he does the attack, it would be brutal. +1 and Hydra speed will be done. Range immediately started, so probably gonna kick in pretty soon after the fight begins. MaNa's in a lot of trouble. He's got charge lots going to the south, and those will hopefully bring back Elazer's army, but it could turn into some kind of weird base trade-ish scenario. Thank you very much, Barrett, for that raid. Hey, guys. They're getting in on the action. Zealots going into the natural. There is very little to nothing defending, but then a bunch of Hydras and Queens going into also a very defenseless Protoss space. 7 square gets taken out, so no sentries, no stalkers, couple of Archons desperately being morphed in. What are the charge lots doing? They have run back a decent chunk of those Hydras. They're also grabbing a decent amount of drones, and this is getting very interesting. Third Nexus is going to fall. Looks like MaNa is willing to give that up as long as his natural survives, and currently it is. He's going to try and go for the break with the probes, but I got to tell you, probes don't usually do that well against the Hydras. The Phoenixes are trying their best to help out with +1. They are pretty damn good against the Hydras when they got some support on the underside of them, and they do maybe have just enough. The Archon's still not touched. A charge that warp in actually coming in to really make this one-sided, and MaNa even saved this Nexus. He might have lost 17 probes, but his Zealots on the side of the map also killed like 15 drones. So all's fair in the economic losses, and now the question is, who has the better army when all is said and done? I'm feeling a bit better for MaNa. At supply is not exactly where we want to be for a Zerg player, and MaNa even has the better economy, so up 8 workers. The Phoenix numbers aren't really helpful anymore, and the charge out numbers could be microed against. Now the Hydras have both of their upgrades done. Storm might have finished, but no High Templars for the casty cast. And he kind of needs a cast. He kind of needs one Storm to help out. And maybe the Archons will do the trick. One Archon being pulled back, barely surviving, is going to go down pretty quickly, though. A concave of Hydras trying to tuck around on each individual Archon, trying their best, but charge out reinforcements proved to be just a little bit too much. Elazer has some pretty damn fast reinforcements himself. He's going to also be finally adding on more Lings, and this time with +1 melee, but it seems like momentum has stopped. It feels like MaNa, he's got time to breathe with an economy that's actually intact. If this third base wasn't up and running with probes, I think it's a lot more questionable. He's reinforcing the Archons with 1 or 2 Zealots opposed to 4 or 5 Zealots. A very big difference. But Elazer's got to respect the momentum, the feeling of this game. He's going to pull back, let the Hydras he was producing pop out, clear up some rocks, and then drone. Try and get back to that decent economy, but it's going to be a little bit of a weird game. Elazer has a couple things going for him. He's quicker to that +2 melee. He has a 4th base, so when his drone count is up, it will be very effective. And he's got a lot of creep spread. So, you know, any engagement from just this middle portion of the map is going to be seen from really far away. But MaNa has the superior technology, and he's had, until literally just now, the superior economy as well. With a 4th base already almost halfway done, it still feels very good for the Protoss, and MaNa also has Storm, which now he has time to let those High Templars soak up energy. Doesn't start as +2 though, and that's the only thing that I guess would be like really taking all of the advantages away from Elazer, except creep spread, I guess. Protoss don't really have creep spread, do they? But yeah, if MaNa was also starting as +2 and chronoing that, then it would just be even on upgrades, but far superior actual army composition for MaNa. MaNa trying his best to not let his Zealots just aim move into slow Banelings. Ooh! Almost messed up. The Banelings are going to crash into a lot of the Zealots, but the Storm's looking pretty good. Storm's also on the drones and the Banelings, then a last-second morph into an Archon. Elazer lost some economy. He lost a lot of Hydras, but might barely have enough with reinforcements to clean this up. No, the drones! Oh my god, no, the drones. Yep, that's it, GG. Elazer was also being attacked in the 3rd base, which I only just noticed, so he did not have the ability to clean that up. GG, MaNa brings it to game 5. Now I'm spoiled on what every unit to have a name. I can't think of that many names. The movie Saving Private Betty was canceled because Betty could be saved. She could handle herself. Exactly. No idea how MaNa held that so well. Oh, yeah, it was a real gamble, you know, with the charge lots. The charge lots, you know, definitely would have helped. There's so many of them. They would have helped in the defense. But I think the idea is that, while the charge lots would have helped in the defense, maybe the actual interaction would have still been better for Elazer, because the charge lots would be helping with the link cleanup, and then the Hydras get to rip and tear through them. Whereas what happened is, I guess the Lings kind of got cleaned up by like SimCity and Archons, and a you know, drastically fewer Zealots, but still as effective with the way that MaNa positioned his army. And the Hydras didn't really get to just like, you know, do their thing. The ideal situation, I think, for Elazer is MaNa trying to engage before he's ready, try and get the hop on Elazer's army, and then not have room to retreat. And the Hydra is still alive and well after their Ling buddies get decimated. The Hydra starts to tear into the army. But instead there was a lot of like meandering across the natural and the third, that large space in the middle of Romanticide. I guess just kind of patience, maybe, is what won MaNa that. There was also some actual micro, I guess, saves that would be worth noting, but I think just overall it was patience. So whether his Zealots actually did go across the map and do what they did, or if they were at least, or alternatively, they were, you know, also pulled back, way back into the third, letting the Nexus take damage before the trigger was pulled. I think either way, MaNa was surprisingly well set up for it. You could have to go back into the replay and slow it down and look at it. Because it seemed like Elazer was going to have a good time. It seemed like Elazer had what he wanted, which was an excellent defense against the Phoenix. Like, it wasn't just that, like, he showed Queen and Hydras and MaNa went, oh no, I can't do anything, and pulled back. No, I mean, MaNa did try and do something. He used a lot of energy to try and kill what ended up not being very much. And he also lost Phoenix. So usually that's a very good hold from the Zerg side into this, like, extreme creep spread to the middle of the map, very fast reinforcements. Like, that just seemed like everything did line up for Elazer. And yet MaNa still did what he did, which was hold pretty damn well. But anyways, we're on Oxide now. MaNa spawned top right, Elazer bottom left, and MaNa once again went for the probe block, because that's what he do. He does that. They think ZG is a dungeon master, you can just make up names. Well, that's why I, when I was doing the Call of Cthulhu campaign, I did have a random name generator. And now that I'm doing like a pre-made campaign, anytime my players are like, we want to talk to a shopkeeper, I'm like, oh fuck. Because the pre-made campaign, as far as like the actual dungeons and like key characters, provides me with names. But if it's some random Joe Schmo, I'm like, this is Joe. Joe Dragon, the shopkeeper. Who would be the Karen of Protoss? Oh, absolutely. It's gonna be, her name's with an R, though, doesn't it? Rahanda or some shit like that? Rahana. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's definitely the Karen of Protoss. Oh, yeah. Easy. That one was so dumb. Alright, a little bit of a change up here for MaNa. So Stargate opener, but then he goes into an Oracle Void Ray. And we'll see what that Void Ray truly means. Once again, Elazer is trying to get away without building a Spore Crawler. I gotta say, I like it occasionally. You know? Occasionally skipping those Spore Crawlers because they might not be opening up Stargate or DTs, you know, just Resident Enclaves, is great. Or because your queens are actually in position You did correctly guess where the Oracle is going to swoop in, left or right, top or bottom. But it seems like Elazer is really trying to push the no spore campaign. And as much as I would love to say that Elazer is such a good player that he could get away with it, we have seen that he can't really get away with it. But I guess he's it's still a work in progress, perhaps. I mean, it's not like he's taking 10 drone losses, and 5 when you consider he saved 3 drones by not building anything with them is like, you know, there's some math to do there, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. Kind of weird. It's an Elazer special, I guess. Now Spore Crawler is here, but I think only just the one in case, just in cases. And it was again in the natural, which this makes sense as far as DT defense. But the last place an Oracle usually gets into is in the natural, because it usually has to go through the other bases first and be targeted by whatchamacallit's queens. So we had a pretty fast Archon follow-up. It feels like it's been a while since I've talked about Archon drops, or I brought them up because, you know, they're still a thing, but they really aren't a very popular thing. So it's like, I'm surprised this is happening, even though I've said it could. Oracle's gonna see a dangerous path of creep spread, and I kind of think it's worth bringing the Observer over to clear that up. Yeah, MaNa agrees. I would not be surprised if MaNa is doing this specifically to take care of this creep spread nonsense that Elazer keeps pushing on him. Yeah, Spire is a little bit concerning. MaNa still has an Oracle. And the Void Ray, I guess, could have gone across the map to help harass, but, you know, probably won't count as Spire. But he does not have any hallucinations out yet. So this is one of the faster Spires. I mean, there are very early Spires, like comically early, something that like a Bly would do against a Protoss player. Very, very risky. And then there's like, I would say maybe like a 7-minute Spire. I feel like just like a little bit later, not the latest, but a little bit later. Something that... Well, actually, this might be normal. I'm trying to think of that +1 attack Archon timing that we can see. And this is one of the later ones because of the Archon drop, right? So yeah, maybe this is actually a normally timed Spire. But regardless, MaNa has not sent out hallucinations. So all my babble and hypothetical doesn't really matter. The point is he doesn't know about it until literally just now. The Oracle swoops in. Barely survives, scouts the Spire. MaNa's gonna go, oh, great, cool, super cool. And I try to build up Phoenix usually, but no Stargate production. So he's gonna try and defend these mutas with Archon transportation and maybe blink after this push, but he is gonna do the push first. So like I said, I think this is a bit of a later push, but it also is a bit of a stronger push. It's got the economy behind it, it's got 3 Immortals instead of maybe just 1 or 2, and hopefully gonna have a couple more Archons as well. Stag defense is being put up back at home. Even the Void Ray keeping at home too, I guess, just to help out a little bit. That Zealot just revealed a lot of Zerg army though, so he's got to be careful about his force fields, and already missing. Oh god, that was kind of concerning. But you need a lot more. Corrosive Battles are good. Recall might have to be used, but we'll see how he juggles this. Corrosive Battle on top of the Warp Prism is not going to hit. Yep, just barely not going to be able to kill it. It wasn't 3, it was only 2. Immortals so far not being taken down. Now the juggle is in effect. The Archons as well have to worry about the mutas. The mutas try and take fire down the Warp Prism. They finally grab it and are going to grab the last few remnants of the Protoss army as well, but it lasted so much longer than I thought it would. That was actually a very long battle when you compare it to many others in similar situations. Many other times it is just the Zerg player overwhelming. The Protoss player drops all their oranges, all their limes, and says, shit, I guess I lost. The MaNa was actually able to kind of maximize his potential. Maybe the force fields could have been a little bit better, a little bit faster. Maybe there could have been a retreat immediately after a double force field set. But yeah, for that situation, I give him a solid B+, if not A-. Now it is up to him to defend the onslaught of the Zerg player, though. And that's going to be a little bit trickier because it really is everything in Elazer's hands. Like, Elazer might have lost a 4th base. That is important. But he's going to quickly replace it, as well as a 5th, and he's going to take control over the map in a way that MaNa just really can't. MaNa did not start up Blink. He's only recently started up his Phoenix production. It doesn't feel so good when it comes to defending these mutas. Zealots do manage to avoid the army, but only very temporarily. Trading out against the Lings is not really what they want to do. Yeah, I just don't think it did enough damage. It was supposed to last longer. It was supposed to push into this, cut up the army in half, continue pushing in, make it really a desperate hold. And while it was, as I was saying, kind of the closest it could have really gotten, it didn't carry through. It didn't last long enough to do enough damage. Elazer has so much room to play with. Guardian Shield, very effective against Mutas, but the Archon's still going to go down. Wasn't quite in range of the shield battery. Void Array also not in range of the shield battery is going to go down too, and it would have been really helpful against the Roaches, but I do feel like Elazer is going for the killing blow. A bit overeager perhaps, considering the static defense that is available. But Elazer on now 5 bases, 78 drones can take some pretty bad trades and be okay with it. MaNa's going to try and get to Fleet Beacon, get the Phoenix range as he sees more and more mutas on the way, so that is something he has to do. But then he'll have to worry about how to deal with the ground army kind of a bit later on. I guess to an extent the Phoenixes can do it, depending on how badly they slaughter the mutas. But they're not dependable. Finding a couple of queens and then being able to evacuate is actually pretty decent. But that creep spread is still pushing its way over into this 4th nexus, and Oxide is pretty hard to get a base up without that moment of peace. You know, if there's a moment where the SAC defense comes up around the 4th base and your 3rd's already situated, like, it can be okay. But if the Zerg player is in control and has such a mobile force as well, like Mutaling, God, I don't think you ever get a 4th base up on this map. Prove me wrong, MaNa. Prove me wrong. A lot more Zealots once again heading toward the left, and Elazer was unable to see it, so a bit of a late reaction. A later reaction than last time. I'm gonna click on that hatchery and at least take this out of the equation, but that's a hatchery for like 7, 8 Zealots. IDK, guys, IDK. A couple probes going down, but actually not super worth the Banelings. It is once again back to the old, well, I guess Elazer can do whatever the hell he wants. The Phoenixes are starting to bully back the Mutas. Elazer now having to respect this is gonna go into some Corruptors, and an old dynamic I haven't seen in a while. Phoenix control actually not perfect, and if not, you want to really bulk them up first, get that flower going, and then engage like MaNa was doing. But he actually hadn't bulked them up, so a couple of Phoenixes got taken out on the other side. But if he bulks them up like this, there's actually just theoretically no way the Mutas ever catch up to him. That is a big army. That is a lot of Lings. There are no Archons. There is no Storm. There's really not that many Lings, but it is a very SimCity-able base. Lings don't do so hot when that happens. Phoenix is now finding Corruptors. Can actually take them on to an extent. If you're really winning the Phoenix War, again, Apollo's trying to help me. Okay, alright. I wish you guys could see this. Apollo has literally sat on my hands, my mouse hands. Like, not completely sitting, but like front legs over one side, back legs over another, and he doesn't care that I'm moving it. He's like, fuck you, paying attention to me. Well, I can't, Cat. This time Archons were available and do a great job soaking up a hell of a lot of Banelings, but now they're unavailable for the rest of the army. More Banelings coming through, a lot more Lings coming through. The Phoenix is not really winning that air wars. The Corruptors are just a little bit too much to help out, and Lings now conquering the Stalkers and the Immortals. That is going to be it. Such a difficult style to play against, really. And in this case, the +1 attack with the Immortal Archon just didn't do enough damage. GG. Elazer with the 3-2 victory moves on to the finals. This cat, though.